Add excitement to your holidays with Ohio Lottery Holiday Scratch-Offs, including $1 holiday cash and $5 holiday lucky times 10, or Holiday Bonus Millions with a 200 times multiplier and a $2 million top prize. Plus, enjoy second chance drawings where you can win 10 times, 100 times, or 1,000 times the price of your ticket. Scratch-Offs make the perfect gift, and best of all, there's no wrapping required. Lottery players are subject to Ohio laws and commission regulations. Play responsibly.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in places that could expose you to identity theft. That's why LifeLock monitors millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, their US-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Is it time to reimagine your future? The right business skills may make a difference in your career. At Capella University, we offer a relevant education that's designed to focus on what you need to know in the business world. We'll teach professional skills to help you pursue your goals, like business management, strategic planning, and effective communication. And you can apply these skills right away. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to AI Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
And fine, Fettle and festive mood.
How is Spain?
And colder than expected. Bright and sunny, no wind, no rain, so an improvement on where I was.
Yeah, well, we don't hear any crying from you when I'm sitting here in weather that ducks would turn their nose up at, and poor guy is floating around somewhere in the North Sea on a chunk of ice. Now, because of the week that's in it, we are only going to get to do one of these this week. So we figured we would combine the next two games, that is Leicester City at home and West Ham United away. So let's start with Leicester City, Carl. They currently sit 17th in the Premier League table. They've already made a change in terms of the manager, sacking Steve Cooper and bringing in Ruud van Nistelrooy. That has not led to a huge upturn in form. And in their last two games, they have lost 4-0 to Newcastle and 3-0 at home to Wolves, which is a very concerning result if you're a Leicester fan. What have you made of the Foxes this year? Obviously, their first season back after a year in the Championship. Jamie Vardy still leading the line. Our hero, Wout Faes, still playing a prominent role in their defence. What do you think of them?
Well, I mean, I think the managerial change is largely a popularity contest. They didn't like Steve Cooper. Fine, but I'm not sure what you think is going to be different in terms of Leicester's potential for getting points and so on and so forth. Outside the relegation zone, where they are right now, 17th, is an absolutely exceptional place to finish for them this year. And there's no two ways about it, because we've seen it 1,000 times over with teams coming up, not being good enough, having the players, blah, blah, blah. It's really difficult. They don't get just how big a gap it is sometimes. Leicester probably should do, because they've been up and down enough times, but fans forget very, very quickly, and they want to just be better than beating some of the teams who have been in the Premier League, like the teams who are just above them. Palace were brilliant last season. Everton have been in the Premier League all the time. West Ham won a European trophy not that long ago. Man United are Man United. Those are the teams directly above Leicester. Who are they expecting to be better than out of that group? That is my question. So I don't really think that there was too much call to make the change, but if they want to do it, fine, but don't expect things to get dramatically better, because they are already right at this exact point with you outside the relegation zone, about as good as it needs to be and probably can be for this year. So, of course, Everton could, spiral out of control and get more points deductions or whatever. But we saw last year, without points deductions, there was no relegation fight. The teams who went down would have been down a long, long way beforehand. So if you are outside the bottom three right now, that is perfect. That is all you need to do this year. And then steady yourself, make reasonable judgments as to where you need to improve Woodface, and make sure that you do so in a sensible manner in summer. But right now, I don't see that they need any big jump. They don't need any big improvement of personnel that they have in place, because right at this minute, they're probably in a fight of maybe 4 teams, maybe 5 teams at an absolute stretch, and you've got to finish about 3 of them. And right now you are.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, in fairness, I made this argument when they sacked Steve Cooper. I couldn't understand what it was that the expectation was, because he got sacked on November 24th. They lost the previous day, and they dropped from 15th to 16th. And I was asking, what more did you expect? Who are the teams in this division that you expected to be above? And you've just gone through them there. The teams below them are the 2 teams that came up with them and Wolves. So you're already ahead of one team who'd become pretty established in this division. What more were you expecting from Steve Cooper? It's not like a thing where you went out in the summer and spent vast quantities of money. You sold your best player in Kieran Dewsbury Hall. You bought Fatawu, who was there last year, Michael Golding, who's a child, Bobby D. Cordova-Reid on a free, who's a squad player for another Premier League team, Caleb Okoli. You for some reason spent 20 million on Ollie Skip. I still don't understand. You bought Jordan Ayew, Bilal El-Khanas, very, very talented, but very, very young. And then you loaned in Buenanote, very talented, but very young, and Odsonne Edouard, who hasn't really ever clicked in the Premier League. I don't know what it is that they came up expecting, because 17th is absolutely a fantastic outcome for this season. And Steve Cooper had them in 16th. So I don't really understand what the plan is. You've got, again, Woodface as a starting centre-back. You've got Connor Cody playing a lot years after he was Premier League calibre. Vestergaard is playing games. You've got Jamie Vardy as your only sort of reliable number 9 at 37, soon to turn 38. I don't know what it is you thought you were going to accomplish this season, but I suppose given they won a Premier League title and they won an FA Cup, there probably is more expectation from the fan base than there really should be for a club of Leicester's size. And as you said, the fans didn't like Steve Cooper because he was ex-Nottingham Forest. The fans didn't like him, couldn't warm to him. And I ultimately didn't have a major issue with moving on from Steve Cooper. You want to move on from your manager, that's fair enough. That's absolutely your prerogative. I just didn't understand the decision to appoint Ruud van Nistelrooy. I understand that, he's a big name, but he doesn't have a great managerial track record. He managed the PSV Academy, which you throw out. He managed PSV's first team for one season, and he left right before the end of the season, having failed to win the league, finishing second, of course, to Arne Slot's Feyenoord. And then he managed 4 games for Manchester United. He has never been in a situation as manager or player where relegation was a possibility. He doesn't know what it is to survive. He doesn't know how you get there. It seemed like such an illogical appointment to me. Almost like he'd done well with United. There was a bit of praise for him in the media, and Leicester went, yeah, he's the guy we're going to go and get.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I was going to say. 1 month earlier, or if Erik ten Hag hadn't been sacked when he was, let's say United decided to wait until the end of the year, would Van Nistelrooy have even been a consideration? But I know he'd have had a job, so that's a slight difference. But would he have even figured on the list of candidates they would have put forward themselves? I don't see how so. I'd have to imagine so. I mean, I have no problem with giving a new boss a chance, or just speaking to him and he came up with some radical idea or whatever, or gave them a really good speech or whatever. But I'm nothing against Ruud van Nistelrooy being a manager in the Premier League, but I don't know how they arrived at this decision. It doesn't seem or feel to me as though if he hadn't have suddenly been thrust into an interim role at Man United, he would have been even thought, because he simply wasn't.
Here's the thing, Karl. If they were big Ruud van Nistelrooy fans, why not go and get him in the summer?
Badly tried.
Why not appoint him instead of Steve Cooper? They never even looked at him. He wasn't even under consideration. So he wasn't under consideration, but 4 games in charge of Manchester United, where there was very clearly a feeling of, well, at least the Ten Hag stuff is over now. And you saw the players almost have a weight lifted off them. And he rode a new manager bounce. And unfortunately for Ruben Amorim, it appears that Van Nistelrooy got the new manager bounce, and there was no bounce left when Amorim came in. But, he gets 4 games there, and all of a sudden, you can't have anybody else. It has to be him. It's just a very, very odd approach. Have you watched many of their games this season? What have you made of them as a footballing entity? Because obviously there's been a change in style since Ruud took over. But it doesn't necessarily seem to be a change that's playing to many of the strengths of this squad.
No, I mean, honestly, I would find it very difficult to pick out a style you should play for the strengths of this squad, because I think that there are glaring holes in it, if we're being brutally honest. Like, in terms of technical ability and, say, positional, just general all-round ability, I think that there are some pretty decent players there, but I think most of them are restricted to the outside of the spine, shall we say, fullback areas or wide forward areas or whatever. I don't think that they have a particularly solid middle of the pitch, centre-back, central midfield and goalkeeper, obviously, and they are still relying on it. What is a very, very aging forward now, and I'm sure Jamie Vardy's still good and does hard work for them and all the rest of it, but he's played nearly 13,000 minutes, and he's 37 years of age. Sorry, 1,300 minutes, obviously, and he's nearly 37 years of age.
He's nearly 38 years of age.
Yeah, so it doesn't obviously scream that you're going to have the most energy, the most pace, the most even significant build-up play, let's say, through the centre of the pitch, because that's never been what his game is about, obviously. They do have some really, really good players. We've spoken about James Justin plenty of times, and even if he's not quite been able to go and hit the heights that he could have pre-injuries, he's been decent. Victor Christiansen's, I think, has been pretty decent for them. I think Facundo Buonanotte has been largely excellent for them in terms of what he is and what he's produced for them at 20 years of age. He's not theirs. Stefan Mavididi was one of their key players last year. He'd been in and out of the team, let's say. Centrally, like I said, I think there are significant gaps that they've not really been able to fill. So whether it's Bilal Kanouz gets more game time in the second half of the season and really does prove that he's a very, very good player that they paid a lot of money for. But first and foremost, if you're going to stay up, you have to be, if you're not going to be exceptional at scoring goals, you have to be pretty decent at the back, and they are not. And I know it's going to be a joke, go over the same players, but we go over the same players because the same players do the same fucking things every single time we watch them play. Away from home, there are a lot of teams in the Premier League who are not good defensively, right? Lots and lots of them. Leicester are the worst. There's no other way to look at it. Leicester are the worst team away from home at stopping people score past them. They just are. And again, as we've said before, unless your home form is therefore very, very strong, which again, as you would expect from a team down at the bottom, they're not. Only won 2 games at home this season. You're going to find it really, really difficult. You don't have reliable players to go and play a way of football. You're not going to be counter-press them really well. You're not going to be just trying to bed in and just frustrate people attending behind the ball in a very, say, she sort of way of yesteryear, because they don't have the people to do that. They have players who try to play, or at least in theory, their strengths are that they try to play. They don't have a very expansive attack, like we said. They don't have a very fluid, speedy, all-round, cohesive attacking unit, because that's not what Steve Cooper built his team to be. It's more functional. It's a little bit more probably all-round, but that doesn't mean that it's good, because it's not great in attack and it's not good at all defensively.
No, it's not. It's certainly not good defensively. I mean, like when you think Jamie Vardy, you think counter-attacks. You think drawing teams onto you and then springing him in behind. But he's nearly 38. He doesn't have the same pace that he used to have, and he certainly doesn't have the ability to relentlessly make those runs. He has to pick and choose his moments a lot more now. And the problem with trying to counter-attack is that you need to have a very strong defensive base, which they don't have. They're one of the worst defensive teams in the Premier League. I think they have the second worst defense, maybe the third worst defense at best, but certainly I think Wolves and maybe Southampton. No, Southampton have actually conceded less goals than them. And think of how much Southampton have been mocked this season for their defensive effort. So only Wolves have conceded more than them. And, when you look at the players in the attacking area, like Mavididi, like you said, isn't a regular in the team this season. Ayew was playing a lot under Cooper, and I'm not really sure why. I understand he works hard, but he doesn't bring big numbers of goals and assists. You lost Fatawu. That's a big blow. He's a very talented footballer. But, you have Buenanote, you have Mavididi, you have El Canas. They're creative players with pace who could play in a front-footed team behind Vardy. But you've got to be able to rest Vardy as well. And then behind them, you've got Ndidi, who's no longer the ball winner he once was and has always been quite limited on the ball. You've got Sumari, who's a good ball winner, but he's limited enough on the ball. He hasn't really developed from the player he was when he was 2021. You've got Harry Winks, who's just like, he's neat and tidy. He's like the ideal Sean Dyche midfielder. He's neat and tidy. He can manage a game, but he can't run a game. He won't make big mistakes. He won't cost you the game, but he's not ultimately going to win you a game. And then you bought Ollie Skip, and I still don't know why. Because he's a decent ball winner, but again, he's limited on the ball. He's like a poor man's Conor Gallagher. A bit better defensively, but not nearly as good on the ball. But he's a lot of energy, a lot of bustle, a lot of effort. But I don't know what he's really bringing to you. But if you wanted to be a counter-attacking team, you could absolutely put two of them together and say, right, you're just going to shield in front of the centre-backs. We've got James Justin, as you said. We've got Victor Christiansen. I like both of them. I actually think Christiansen potentially could be very good. You've got other decent fullbacks and Ricky Pereira when he's fit, and Luke Thomas, who I think is a good young player as well. But that centre-back group is just like Okoli potentially could be very good for them. But he's adapting to a new league. He's adapting to new teammates. And he's playing next to either Wout Faes, who was dreadful the last time they were up, and they just thought, okay, let's just roll back with him. Connor Cody, who hasn't been a Premier League caliber centre-back in a few years, and let's not forget, was barely getting a game for them last season in the Championship. Played 12 games in the Championship for them last year because he wasn't good enough to get in the team. And then Yannick Vestergaard, who is maybe the slowest footballer in the Premier League. Like, I think over a 50-yard sprint, Harry Maguire probably beats him quite comfortably. That's not a good group to have together. It's certainly not a good group for someone like a Coley to come in and try and, establish a partnership with. Hermansen in goal has been pretty good this season, but he's getting worked a lot. Like, you're putting an awful lot on a fella who came into this season having never played in the Premier League before. And he's the only reason they don't have by far the worst defensive record in the league. So you concede far too many, and your attack is a little bit disjointed and a little bit too much AU. And you lost Fatau, who was like the one piece of lightning in a bottle that you really had. A kid that could just explode and win you a game with a burst of pace and power. Buenanote's got decent enough pace, but he's more of a technique player. Elkanas is more of a technique player. They're easier to bottle up than someone that can really beat someone off a dribble and just explode into space. It's such an awkward group. It really is. And I don't know. I don't know how long they can even sustain staying out of the bottom three. Because if Wolves have gotten their act together with a new manager and they get a bit of a bump here, wouldn't be all that outside the realms of possibility that in a month we look at this and Wolves are 5 points clear of Leicester and Leicester are 18th. And now all of a sudden it's a 5-point gap between relegation and the first team above them. Because, Palace will pick up points. Everton will pick up points. We expect West Ham to pick up points. United do the same. And they're already well clear of this group. So it's going to be a long-ass season. And I really just cannot get my head around the idea that that was the change you made. Like, again, I don't, like you, I don't have a problem with Ruud being a Premier League manager, but I don't know why you'd bring him into a job where survival is the ultimate ambition when he's got no experience in that sort of battle.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du noch?
If you've heard that sound from Babbel before, I bet you do. Babbel is the science-backed language learning app that actually works. With quick 10-minute lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts, Babbel gets you on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. With over 16 million subscriptions sold and a 20-day money-back guarantee, just start speaking another language with Babbel. Right now, up to 55% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/Spotify podcast. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify podcast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This episode is brought to you by NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. Catch every moment of your team's playoff push with NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. You'll get amazing features like multi-view, and right now, it's only $49 for the rest of the NFL regular season. So give yourself the ultimate gift this holiday season. Get NFL Sunday Ticket for $49. Sign up now at youtube.com/Sunday Ticket. Device and content restrictions apply. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games.
Experience holiday cheer at Tanger Outlets with savings up to 70% off your favorite brands. From fragrances to accessories and the latest styles, discover the best gifts for everyone on your list. Save big at Nike Factory Store, Michael Kors, Under Armour, Coach, Polo Ralph Lauren, Kate Spade New York, and so many more. Unwrap the best at Tanger Outlets. Hundreds of brands, endless gifting options. Plan your trip at Tanger.com.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit libertyshield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
No, I agree. Like I said, I do feel that getting rid of Steve Cooper was just a popularity thing and easier for them to do, because I don't see that he could have been doing much more than he was. Like, I get that performances weren't great from a visibility level, and it wasn't that much enjoyment, and they didn't like him to begin with. Well, all of those things, you knew what was going to be the case when you appointed him. So that's your own decision making. So there's no surprise there. There's no shock. There's no, they just didn't like him. They didn't want it. And eventually they used that as a reason. So that's your own fault. That's your own decision making. Bringing in Rude is now also your own decision making based off whatever reasons you are putting forward for it. But there isn't anywhere else for him to go this year, unless you go and spend, I would say, not just 100 million or whatever it is in January, but buying players who are significantly better than what you've got now in at least 3 positions. You're not going any higher in the table. Like, the gap is already there between Leicester and West Ham, 6 points already halfway through the season. And those teams above you, those players above you, those groups above you, the managers above you, all have more experience in the Premier League recently than any of your players have. So you're not making up that ground on those clubs realistically. And Everton have a game in hand, obviously, as well.
Yeah. And like, if you look at Everton, would you rather, in a relegation battle, would you rather have Dyche or Van Nistelrooy, or you'd rather have Dyche?
Yeah.
You know, if you're picking one centre-back between the two clubs, you're absolutely taking Branthwaite. If you're picking 2, you're taking Branthwaite and Tarkowski. If you're looking at midfielders, you're probably going to take Mangala over Ndidi or whoever. If you're looking at best player, you're taking Dwight McNeil over anybody, frankly, at Leicester City. The only person that you might take Vardy over Calvert-Lewin, but ultimately you're gonna throw your lot behind Everton, who, remember, that they have a lot of muscle memory of relegation battles as well, because they've been in them for the last few years. Leicester have been in one and they went down. Yeah. This Leicester team has, other than Jamie Vardy, who's there since the pre-title days and the Nigel Pearson miracle escape, this Leicester team has no knowledge of how to get themselves out of the shit. Everton at least do. So,
well, look, if you want to compare those teams, all you got to do is look at the goals against. Everton played 1 game fewer, yes. Leicester have conceded 16 more. It's got to be the difference at the end of the season. That column.
Yeah, and while we think Liverpool will beat Everton, we're not going to put 16 past them in that game in hand. So, and like, the thing is that they have a bit more firepower than Everton. I don't think they've got more than Palace when Palace are fully formed. I think Sarr, Mateta and Eze is a significantly better attack than what Palace have. And this is the other thing. Palace have dealt with huge amounts of injuries to this point in the season, and yet they're still ahead of you.
They've lost fewer games. Palace will be fine. I have zero consideration for Palace as a relegation entity. But...
I'm exactly the same.
And let's be honest, Wolves' attack is better than Leicester's attack. If we're saying that Leicester's is better than Everton, and that might be their advantage, Wolves' attack is better than Leicester's.
Yeah, I mean, Wolves have conceded 3 goals more, but they've scored 6 goals more.
It will be very, very difficult for Leicester to stay up. That's just the way it is these days coming up from the Championship. You're going to really struggle unless you have absolutely everything in place and you firmly believe in your process. When you switch that halfway through the season, it's an acknowledgement that something has not gone the way you expected it to. And when that thing is the manager who you appointed, then it doesn't look great.
The thing as well is, like, so last season they had Maresca. He leaves to go to Chelsea. They bring in Steve Cooper, a totally different style of play. He then spends months installing a new style of play. And then you bring in Rude, who, again, totally different style of play. So there's no continuity at all. And you're losing a lot of valuable time because these managers have to get those players on the training pitch and try and drum all these new ideas into their heads. And that's 3 drastic changes in a period of what is now 6 months, 7 months maybe, since they finished up the championship season. Like, that's a lot to ask of players as well. I am of the belief that Ipswich have a clearer path to staying up than Leicester, even though they're 2 points behind, because number one, they've had the same manager for 3 years now. That is his team, his squad. They know exactly what he wants. Number two, I think there's a lot more talent overall in the Ipswich squad than there is in the Leicester squad. And I think, given they've now had half a season to adapt to the Premier League and half a season to adapt to each other, because Ipswich brought in a lot of new players, I think we could see them gel in the second half. Whereas I don't see that for Leicester. There's no gelling to do. They didn't make wholesale changes. This is what they are. I think Ipswich have potentially a couple of levels that they could improve. So I actually think if I was betting on one of them to stay up, I'd bet on Ipswich over Leicester.
Yeah, not sure it'll be either of them myself, but yes, I would agree. I'd say
they probably both will go down.
Yeah,
but if one of them is to stay up, I think the smarter money would go on Ipswich.
Ipswich certainly have a better, should we say, aura around the team, a better togetherness between team and fans and management. There's no question about any of that stuff.
And as we said earlier, like 17th, when you come up, 17th is an absolutely incredible outcome. Yeah. But Leicester, there was clearly delusions of grandeur. If you'd offered Ipswich before the season started, 17th, if you just said to them, look, here's what we'll do. We'll mark you down for 38 points in 17th place, and we'll just put everything down as a 2-2 draw. And that's it. You don't even have to play the season out. They would have snapped your hand off. Whereas Leicester appear to have looked at this and gone, what's been 17th? On the Premier League. We're an FA Cup. We're finishing top half. We're Leicester City. Delusions of grandeur.
As we said before, if the fans have expectations of doing better, that's fine. And that's like, you could argue that's actually right. But not this year. That's the point. Not this year. You have to earn the right to do that again. Not
you survive. You come up into this league. Season 1, you survive. Season 2, maybe you survive again. Season 3, you start to establish yourself. And then you can build from there. Like, look at Brighton when Brighton came up. And look at where they've gotten to now. Isn't that like the picture-perfect story of a club coming into the league, survive, establish, and then build? And now we look at Brighton and, you know, we think potential European candidate every year.
But even if Brighton's beyond you, look at a whole bunch of other teams there, like Bournemouth, Brentford. Let's sit here want to be compared to them. Palace are down. Anyway, Leicester are not where they need to be right now. That's the point. So,
forgetting them for a second, let's focus on us. We have these 2 games coming up, obviously, in a short span of time, 26th and 29th, if I'm not mistaken. So I think we will see Arne Slot look to rotate. I think he'll play, you know, a lot of the same players will play both games, but I do think he'll make some changes. And obviously, we've just played Spurs and given them a good slapping. So, for this Leicester game, Ali in goal, I would make one change in defence. I would bring in Costas for Andy Robertson. But I would go Trent, Joe, Virgil, and Costas.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I would do the same.
In midfield, I think I'd go Gravenberch, Alexis, and Curtis Jones. Just given the immense workload that Dominic Szoboszlai put in against Spurs, I might just hold him off on this one. Bring him on off the bench, obviously, but might just pull him back for this one. Make it clear, like, this is not, you're not being punished, you're being rewarded here. because you were unbelievable in that game. But we think West Ham is the game we really need you starting because that's the away game on a bigger pitch. So start Curtis with Grav and Alexis is how I'd go with this midfield.
I would agree on the Szoboszlai call. I might even in midfield be tempted to do an additional change and start Endo here, to be honest. I don't expect that will be the case, but this is the one I would do it for. I would start Endo over Gravenberch.
I could see that. I think this is the one where you can get away with it as well.
Yeah.
Because there's not a ton of legs in that midfield. I know they've got Sumare, but as long as we have the ball, it's not really going to matter. That's not a bad shout. I do like that idea. I wouldn't even be against Morton coming in. Like Morton and Alexis with Curtis as a 3. And give Gravenberch the rest here. And then have him back in for West Ham. In the attack, Mo was going to start. I think I'd start Jota. Because I think that defense is just begging for Jota to pluck a couple of goals against. And I think I'd move Lucho to the left wing. I think I'd start him again. Even though he put in an incredible shift as well, I think I'd start him and let Cody sit this one.
Yeah, I would sit Cody. I'm not sure if I'd start Jota or Down. You could start both, perhaps. I would sit Cody. That's fine. Jota, I think, definitely needs to start. He's had a good few sub-appearances now, so this is a good one for him to start. We did mention that one before the Spurs game, as this would be the ideal first start for him, whether that's 45 or 60 or whatever you plan, how much he can do and see how he fits in with that. So I'll go with Diaz as well, but I wouldn't be totally averse to it being Nunez left. Maybe that's too many changes then.
I think that might be too many. And I think I'd start Darwin against West Ham. We'll come on to that, but I think that might be a game to start him.
Okay, Diaz left wing. Diaz, yes.
Yeah, so we've got Costas coming in at left back, Curtis in midfield, and potentially that second midfield change as well. And then Jota coming in as the 9 with Diaz on the left. That's the pair that started the season and were working really well together. And then it got broken up because obviously Cody was demanding games because he was playing well, so he had to get games on the left. And then Jota gets hurt. So we lose that Diaz-Jota connection. Right, prediction for Liverpool versus Leicester. 5.
Yeah. He's a crap. He's a crap in defence is more the point.
Swiss cracker.
Yeah. That is the late case.
So you're factoring in the 2 Wout Faes own goals here, obviously.
I was actually going for 1 own goal and 1 short back pass, but whichever way is fine.
It was one of them where he tries like 8 times to clear it and falls over his own feet or hits himself in the face with the ball. Both of which he's done already this season, by the way. What a man. Wout was our top scorer 1 month in the Premier League when things were particularly grim. So, I'll be a bit more conservative. I'll go 3-0. But I want like a comfortable. We scored 3 in like 35 minutes, and then it's a really boring second half where nothing happens, and we just remember what it is to keep a clean sheet and remain focused.
Yeah, I do want a clean sheet in this game. That's one thing I would say. Just absolutely shut them down at the back. I would also like to see, given the workload and the gap between games, some after that 3 goals in 35 minutes, obviously, some fairly early subs, and not necessarily not just like Szoboszlai coming on, Gakpo coming on, but I would like to see whether it's Tyler Morton, whether it's Trent leaving right back and Kwanzaa comes on and Gomez goes right back, or wherever. Let's make use of the subs for this game.
Yeah, agreed here massively. Like, if we're 3-up and cruising, I don't want to see Szoboszlai at all. Let him sit on the bench. Get Mo off on the hour mark, no matter how much he sulks about it, and stick Harvey on the right wing. get Trent off, bring Quansah on, Joe goes to right back. Or look, if there's a possibility, I know he probably won't do it, but like take Virgil off with 20 minutes to go. And give him a little bit of a rest. Though Virgil walks through games, so he'll be all right. Right, so that's the 26th. On the 29th, we travel to London to take on West Ham. Now, West Ham are currently 14th in the Premier League. They play Southampton away on Boxing Day. 2 weeks ago, they were probably looking at that and thinking, well, that's a straightforward win. But now with Southampton having a new manager, and this will be the new manager's first game, potentially there's a bit of a bounce to come there for the Saints. So it could be a tougher one for West Ham, but you'd still expect them to go there and win. I think fair to say they've been one of the more disappointing teams in the league this year. They obviously had a big summer. Luis Guilherme, Max Kilman, Crescencio Somerville, Nicholas Fulkrug, Guido Rodriguez, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and Jean-Claire Todibo and Carlos Soler coming in the door. Like a lot of good players. It was definitely an overrated window. Like I saw Liverpool fans casting, longing gazes at this group. There's not a single player there that starts for us. Most of them probably wouldn't even be, first choice backup for us. But there are some very good players in that group. And there was definitely expectation. They made the big change, obviously moving on from David Moyes, hiring Julian Lopetegui. And I think at every international break this season so far, there was a lot of speculation that West Ham might be about to make a change. They're currently 3 unbeaten. That's their best run of form in the league so far. We've already played them once this year in the third round of the EFL Cup. That was a 5-1 win for the Reds, where João Quansah scored an own goal to put them 1 up. Jota got 2, Salah got 1, and then Cody got 2 late goals that kind of skewed the scoreline a little bit. It wasn't really a 5-1. It was probably more of a 3-0 type of win. But no matter, we were comprehensively better than them on the day. What do you make of West Ham so far? I know you're not a big Lopetegui fan.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Experience holiday cheer at Tanger Outlets with savings up to 70% off your favorite brands. From fragrances to accessories and the latest styles, discover the best gifts for everyone on your list. Save big at Nike Factory Store, Michael Kors, Under Armour, Coach, Polo Ralph Lauren, Kate Spade New York, and so many more. Unwrap the best at Tanger Outlets. Hundreds of brands, endless gifting options. Plan your trip at Tanger.com.